I think when I was 12 in Benin, the political scene changes. The military took the power, and we have communism dictatorship. And I was raised in a household of great minds and great soul and great strength of women, strong women. My grandmother, my mother's mother is from Nigeria, and I have family, Yoruba family in Nigeria. I mean, Nigerian women are really strong, and it's no bias in the house. Things that are blue are blue. It's not green. It's not yellow. It's not red. It's what it is. And my father is a very strong person in my life. And because my father always used to say to us, your gender don't matter. Intelligence has no gender. Everything you put yourself to do, you can do it. And he always said to my mother, if you're free, I'm happy. If you're happy, I'm happy. And he didn't want to lead anyone's life. He didn't want to tell us what to do. The only thing he said is, I'm going to be the wall on which you can lean on anytime you need to. And my duty as a parent is to protect you from harmful traditions and to send you to school for you to make up your own mind, because the world you're going to be living is going to be transforming at the pace that you have to be educated to catch up. So that is my background. And when the dictatorship arrived, one thing that was really clear for me, because I was the most curious person ever. I would ask questions all the time. My father always used to say to me, whatever you do, don't be linked to a political party, because they come and they go. If you want to make change in your life, in the life of your community at large, you gotta be the person that have no string attached to anyone politically. You can be a person they talk to, that you talk with to find solution, but don't be part of it. So I couldn't stand the dictatorship, because our house was a very open house where everyone were welcome. Doesn't matter what skin color you have, doesn't matter what language you speak. You come to that house, you are welcome as we've known you forever. My mom will be cooking day in, day out, feeding people because she loves that. And when the dictatorship came in, our home become a jail cell. It's like you don't trust anybody anymore. First of all, you are summoned to call your mom and dad comrade. Your cousins that come in, any part of your family member that come home, you always questioning why they come. Before, it was no question why. It was like, hey, welcome. What's up? Let's speak. And then suddenly you couldn't speak anymore because you know who is spying on you, and you might end up in jail. If your phone was tapped, we didn't know. And it was something that I couldn't bear. And as a musician, a singer-songwriter, every artist in Benin were also summoned to write music and talk about revolution. You have to sing Prêt pour la révolution, la lutte continue. Are you ready for the fight? The revolution continues. And I'm like, hell no, I ain't doing this. So I did my first album in 1981, and I started touring Cameroon, Ivory Coast, in the region. And so therefore I was able to escape a little bit of the pressure and the censorship. But one day came, I couldn't. So I had to play in front of all the leaders of West Africa. It was the first time as a young person that I was so close to head of state. And that day, the respect I could have for any politician was buried right there. Because you're expecting from your leaders to be moral people, to be above the frame, to be an example that we want to follow. And all of them there, they were looking at me like a piece of meat that they are willing to put in their bed. And I'm like, for real? Are you guys that pathetic? And I finished that show, and I turned around and looked at my mom and dad, and they knew that if they don't let me leave the country, I will end up in jail. Because I'd rather die speaking up for freedom, justice, than to sit there and take the bias and the hypocrisy of people that are supposed to protect us that are not able to protect us. So it took my parents 1 year in secrecy to prepare me leaving the country. You don't trust your neighbors. We have to stage me leaving the country. It is crazy. And when I left, For 6 years straight, I couldn't speak to my parents. No one go to exile is not a promenade, is not holidays. It's tough. My first year in France was one of the hardest year I've ever lived on this earth, because you cry every day and you are living in fear, even though you know you're safe where you are. Everything that was going on in my mind was, I hope my mom and dad don't end up in jail. And as a young girl, it is a lot of stress. That stress I have, my brother that I was living with was still a student. So you know that there's won't be any financial support from your family. You have to be left, find yourself alone. And before I left, I knew that something was bothering my mom and my dad. And because they teach us to speak up and to ask questions, I went to both of them and said, Mom, Dad, what is the problem? What are you afraid of? You're not the same, because my date of leaving was coming close. So both of them said to me, my father have studied in France and he knew how hard it is. And he said to me, I worry sick that if you find yourself with no money, you might end up in prostitution or selling drugs or consuming drugs. And I said to my dad and mom, you didn't raise me like that. My 10 fingers can work. I'm not lazy. I don't care. I wash. If I have to clean people's house, I will do so. Whatever it takes as a job that make me an honest job that can make me make money, I'm not taking any shortcut. I want to work hard. So when I left, I was sure when I left, because even though I was a star in Africa or in my country, I put all that in the back. And I said, this is a new beginning. You become an adult and you have to stand for yourself. So I work in hair salon doing hair. I clean hotel rooms. I do babysitting, whatever it takes. And at the same time, I was singing on stage, doing backing vocals, because I wanted to know, because when you're front runner, if you don't know what is going on behind, you can't know completely your craft. So being a backing singer for me was part of developing my own strength as an artist. And I was lucky. I was doing music school and stage at the same time, because the problem and the danger of schools, music school, is that you can be a student your whole life. And me, I love being on stage. So basically, that's briefly what I went through to be the person that I am, because I never take a shortcut. I never expect anyone to give it to me for free. And anything that is free, I question it 10 times. Because what I ask is, why are you giving me something for free? What am I going to lose? What am I going to pay for it? If I work, I know that I earn my money at the sweat of my forehead. No one is getting me anything. But every opportunity that had been presented to me, I was ready for it, because I work hard.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's such an amazing story and such an amazing journey. And I think one of the things that I would like to push on is that so much of what you spoke about is scary, you know, like as I think back to where you were looking forward. So how do you move forward when you are afraid? Because it is, I'm sure it's not that the fear was absent, it's there, but you still find a way to move forward. And I'd be curious as to how you do that, you know, for other young women out there.
Once again, I come back to my father. My father said, fear is not a negative thing. Fear, if you really accept the fact that you are afraid, you start thinking about, how am I going to get out of this, right? And you start asking yourself questions. What do you want to do? Are you going to let fear rule your life, or you want to beat this fear and turn your fear into strength? And therefore you start thinking. My father always used to say, when you have a plan A, you got to have B and C, even D. You never know, because nothing is set in stone. You got to be able to rebound all the time. And for me, when I arrived in France, what was clear for me was two things. I said to myself, or I continue in law school and become a human rights lawyer, or I am a musician. For both, I need to go to school to learn my strength and my weakness. So I spent a trimester at a university where some of my friends were, Before I could register to the university, they say, why don't you come with us to the classes and see what it is? And that's when I start realizing that we write law, but law don't serve justice. And I'm like, I am a person of justice. What is fair is fair. What is just. So why am I going to be a human rights lawyer if I can't define people, if the game is already rigged at the beginning? So I say, I don't want to live in misery. I don't want to live and grow up being a bitter person, a nasty person. Nah, I will do music. So I spent 2 years in a school where I learned classical vocal training, and then 3 years at the jazz school. And at the same time, as I said, I was on stage learning different things, because the time, I left in 1983, and it has been more than 10 years that we have dictatorship. All the music that come from around the world was banned. The music from Nigeria was banned. We couldn't listen to Ebenezer Obey. None of the music fell. Everybody was gone. You wake up in the morning, we were really brainwashed, singing, ready for the revolution. The fights continue. So when I arrived in Paris, I was like, I gotta catch up with all the music that I can put my hands on. So I was busy doing that, and at the same time playing different type of music with different people, learning to write, working with a jazz musician from Holland that never write any music. He tell you, we're gonna do an album. I say, what are the songs? You go, how will we get to figure it out? So we hear you in the studio, and then, okay, you start writing music and recording it at the same time. So for me, the fear that I had was, I was saying to myself, this trip, this risk that my parents take to send me away have to be worth it. I have to make something out of my life. And I knew from the moment I chose to go to musical school, I knew I was going to be a singer. And therefore, all my focus was there. Learning music, going to the club, singing, playing with musicians, and touring. I started touring in 1984. Every year I'll go to Germany with a group called Pili Pili. So fear, when you really manage to think beyond the haze of fear, and you can see some light, and then you can say to myself, I have to jump this obstacle. I want to be somebody. I want to do something for myself, my family, and my people. And you see, and you keep your focus on that. And everything you do have to go to emphasize and strengthen your belief that what you have ahead of you is better than what you are leaving behind. And that's how I say that kind of fear is okay. The fear that brings you to violence and that brings you to hate is because you are a coward and you are not secure enough to know that you have the solutions. When you get to two things that are linked to fear, ignorance, fear, violence, and all those kind of things, is because you give up on yourself and give up on your ability as a human being to think that you have a power, you have a role to play in your family, in your life, and in the world. Because none of us here is born with anything set in stone. We gotta carve the way we wanted to carve. And we are born with a lot of things. And you look at the positive side of the thing, even when you are down below ground, there's always a light somewhere. And when you know where you come from, you are stronger. Not knowing where you come from, if you have no roots, you can't do nothing. And I knew when I left that I know where I belong, I can come back to. I might not know where I'm going, but I know who I am.